I wasn't really sure exactly like what outlet to share it. I didn't know if I like wanted to write a book, do a podcast, and a podcast really felt authentic to get my message out. So here I am, and I couldn't be more excited. About 7 years ago, I went through some really crazy heartbreak. I went through my 20s and my early 30s and really struggled. I felt like I lost my entire identity and I had to learn how to rebuild myself. This was definitely a process. And so if you are in a place right now where you feel a lot of darkness and you feel a little bit lost, I want you to know that you're not alone and you are exactly where you should be. Hi guys, I am so excited because today I am launching episode 1 of The House of Her. And for a really long time, I have felt so compelled to share my story and to share my journey and all the tips and all the tricks that I've learned over the last 7 years. And I wasn't really sure exactly like what outlet to share it. I didn't know if I like wanted to write a book, do a podcast, and a podcast really felt authentic to get my message out. So here I am, episode 1, and I couldn't be more excited. So I just want to give you a little bit of background about myself. So about 7 years ago, I went through some really crazy heartbreak. And I like hit rock bottom, and I went through my 20s and my early 30s and really struggled. I felt like I lost my entire identity and I had to learn how to rebuild myself. And this was definitely a process. And so if you are someone right now who is listening in, it's probably because you have hit rock bottom, or maybe you're like in this in-between stage in life where you're like, do I break up? Do I end this relationship? Do I like move to a new place? Do I start my new job? Because a lot of your 20s and like your early 30s is about experimenting and trying new things and heartbreak and taking on new responsibilities. And so if you are in a place right now where you feel a lot of darkness and you feel a little bit lost, I want you to know that you're not alone and you are exactly where you should be. And my hope and the purpose of me doing this podcast is really to share, like I said, all the things that I've learned in the hopes that it can inspire you and that it can help you in some way, shape, or form. And I always tell myself that any time in my life where I'm like surrounded by darkness or I feel stuck, that there's actually so much light that wants to come through. I always think that like when there's darkness, it's just creating more space for light to pour in. And as I tell you a little bit more about my story and the framework, everything that I'm going to be sharing with you is things that I've done myself. And so it's all been tested through me and through my journey. So I want to kind of like take you guys all the way back to when kind of like what sparked this for me. So going back to about, 7 years ago, I was in a relationship for 12 years and we did like everything together. We were in high school together. We went to college together. We studied abroad together, all of our new friendships, like after college, like all the new friends you make in your early 20s, like couple friends, like all of that was together. And we really tried to make things work. And it didn't work out. And at that point, like 12 years was like pretty much half of my life. And so I had like an identity like death almost, where I had to figure out who I was and I had to learn how to rebuild myself. And I remember just like after that relationship ended, being like on the bathroom floor, like cold tile against my body. And I remember just like crying my eyes out. And I felt like I literally had nothing left inside of me. And at that time, I ended up just like needing to get away. And so I actually moved. Well, I I went to New York where I knew nobody for a month. And I stayed in this like little tiny apartment in the West Village. And I would like go to coffee shops and I would go to museums and I would just like be with myself, away from the noise and just like getting to know who I was and trying some way to like rebuild myself. And I actually remember, and if you're in a place right now where you are like rock bottom or like just finished or just like went through a breakup, maybe this will help you. But I remember I went to this little coffee shop and I was just like, okay, I need to feel like me again. So I took out my journal and I wrote down a few things. And again, remember, I'm like literally rock bottom. So the only way that I could go was up. Like, I'm sure you've heard this, but like when you're lying on your back, like the only way you can go is up. And so I started to write down just like things that I wanted in my life. So like at the time I really wanted to feel like feminine and sexy. And I was like, what can I do to like harness that energy? So I wrote down that I wanted to take Latin dance class. And that was like a goal of mine. And long story short, I'm actually dyslexic. And so when I ended up going back to San Diego, which is where I'm from, I ended up signing up for these like Latin dance classes. And I actually love to dance and I'm like a pretty good dancer, but following like a choreographed routine, I suck. And so I feel like in the dance class, like everyone was like going to the right and I'm like the one going to the left. But what's beautiful about trying things when you're already rock bottom, it's like, who cares? Like, it's like this ego death, right? Like all of a sudden you have access to like rebuild yourself in whatever way you want. And I found that a really cool thing. Like you have this like blank slate in front of you. And like, what's the worst? I suck at dance class and I show up again and suck again. Like who cares, right? So anyways, going back to it, like I wrote down like I wanted to feel feminine, I wanted to feel sexy, and I tried the dance class. Second thing I remember that I wrote down for myself was at the time I used to own a chocolate company and I wanted to get this chocolate company into retail. And it was like an adaptogenic chocolate company for women. And my goal was to get into Urban Outfitters. And so I wrote that down. And when I ended up going again, like back home to San Diego, I started just like to like figure out how, like, who can I reach out to? How can I get this in stores? And I ended up getting the chocolate into like 50 Urban Outfitter stores. And actually the outcome is it's not the point. The point is that when we make small promises to ourselves and we set goals for ourselves and we work towards that, we're building a trust muscle within ourselves. And that really started to like move things for me. And I started to like rebuild my identity. And while rebuilding, I started to become obsessed with anything and everything that would heal me, that would provide me like with something bigger than myself, a different perspective. And I literally like have done and tried everything. So meditating, cacao ceremonies, electromagnetic healing, I'm Reiki certified. Like I've done channeling. I've worked with a psychic, nonstop therapy. You name it, I've done it. Retreat seminars, Tony Robbins, studying Kabbalah, like all these things that I've done, like have really given me a unique perspective. And I really was searching for healing. And so this is all going to kind of like weave into my framework that I'm going to be sharing with you. And so anyways, fast forward to like a few months later, I ended up jumping into another relationship. And I actually knew that this second relationship was not for me. I knew it and he knew it, but we were still together for 2 years. And we broke up. And luckily I was like a much more whole person. Like I knew who I was. I've done a lot of the work. So the breakup didn't affect me at all in the same way. And I remember coming off from that breakup, and I did a Tony Robbins seminar. And Tony Robbins has you do something where you like write your old story, and then you like write all the things, like all the old patterns in your life. And then he has you write your new story. And in your new story, you start to define like all the things that you want in your life, right? This was like a year and a half ago. I wrote down that I wanted to find a life partner and a soulmate that I could be connected to, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. And when I was writing this, like I actually felt connected to that energy. Like I could almost feel like my person. And that was really, really powerful. And as I started to open myself up to, going on new dates and having new experiences, and I started to think like I'm such a believer in like the laws of the universe. And so I really believe that the energy we put out into the world is exactly the energy that we get back. And so I kept thinking like, okay, well, I'm searching for this relationship, or I'm hunting for this person, right? I want this spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional relationship. But I was like, wait a second, I need to be her. Like I need to be her in order to attract that. And I actually just want to pause for a second because I want to make a distinction. So I think that like when we come at things from an energy of being like hungry and searching and like, I need this, right? Like I need this verse, like I'm going to build myself because I'm focused on me and I want to vibrate at the absolute highest frequency that I can vibrate at, but for me, not to call in that person, but so that you are able to be a whole person and you're doing it for you. And I really had to shift this, and I did. I really wanted to develop that relationship with myself. And I'm going to get into the framework and how all this plays in. But I really want to make that distinction because I think that a lot of women feel like they need to date a bunch and they need to do all these things to find their person, but really focusing on yourself and like building you and all those capacities and doing it from a place of like authenticity and is like brings in everything else you could want in your life. So anyways, I started dating and I started really just focusing on myself. So I made goals for myself in all those categories, which like was a really beautiful thing. And so anyways, I'm going to kind of fast forward a little bit to my framework and kind of jump in. So I started the House of Her because I came up with that name because I actually have a background in boutique design and development. And I was building, homes for other people and designing for other people. And I really think that your home is an extension of who you are, how you organize things, how you design your home, how you host, right? These are all things that like are an extension of ourselves. But the most important home that we have is you, right? And to build that. And so that's how I came up with the name, the House of Her. And within the House of Her, I started to think about my life and the challenges and how I've overcome it. And I started to see this like beautiful framework that has taken place. And the House of Her has different rooms, which this podcast, and as you tune in and as you listen, I'm going to walk you through each room. But today I'm just going to talk briefly about the rooms. So in room number 1, I call this the decision-making room. And in this room, this is when you're in that like in-between state. You're like, should I leave this relationship? Should I stay? Should I move to New York and get a new job? Should I start my own entrepreneur journey, right? It's like this place where you're in the in-between. And what I've noticed and what I did, I outsourced a lot, right? Like I outsourced my gut and my intuition a lot during this phase. And I would go and I would like ask other people and I would, do channeling and I do all these different things. And what I realized is that actually the most powerful thing you can do is be in touch with yourself. and that we always have all the answers inside of us. And I'll dive a little bit deeper next week in episode 2 about this. But room number 1, decision-making room. After the decision-making room, I call this the building your vessels. And this is what I was talking about when I was like, I really want this in my life. And I study Kabbalah. And in Kabbalah, they talk about building your vessels. And I want you to think of like a vessel as almost like, think of it as like a bucket, okay? So think about different buckets that you have in your life. And so for me, my framework focused on building my buckets physically, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. And so I think that at that time, right, like I was building, but my buckets were leaking. So like think of literally like water like you want to pour water into your bucket, but it's leaking and you don't have the capacity to hold it. So by building a strong vessel for all of your desires, it allows you to hold it. I hope that makes sense. Like and I really believe that all the things that you want in your life, all of your desires, everything you could ever dream of and want, the reason you have that for a reason. Like you literally like have those desires because they're going to come to fruition. Like it will happen. But you have to build yourself strong enough to receive all the blessings, all the light, and all the miracles. And in room number 2, building your vessels, I walk you through exactly how I did that and how I've done that. Okay, so room number 3. So everyone talks about manifesting. Like it's such a hot topic right now. But I have a theory to manifesting. I don't think you can just go and manifest, right? Like you can't just go and manifest tomorrow and the thing is going to come. I think that there's actually structure and order in manifesting. So, and I think that you actually have to build your vessels and so that you can hold all the manifesting that you want to come in. Does that make sense? Like literally, like you have to like build yourself and then you have to like, then you can dream, right? You can like dream for your soulmate, your dream job, all the things you want. But you have to be in a position where your buckets are not leaking water. So, and there's many ways you can manifest. I think you can manifest through writing. You can manifest through like affirmations. Actually, Mimi Bouchard did a really cool app called, I think it's called Superhuman. And she does these amazing affirmations through audio. So like that's another way that you could do that. Anyways, we'll jump in and as this podcast unfolds, I'm going to share all the ways so you can find the way that you can manifest. So manifesting is room number 3 in my framework. And room number 4 is surrendering. I think that this is huge. A lot of us like want to hold on to the control and we want to hold on so tightly. We want to know all the answers in life, right? But part of being human and part of our human experience is that we sign up for this and it's almost like an experiment and we have to just like let go and trust our intuition, trust the process, and you have to believe that it's all gonna work out. Even when you're like in it, even when things seem like crap and like you're in the dark, you really have to believe and surrender. And I think that's when everything comes through. And so that is the 4th room. So my goal here is to take you through some of my most challenging moments, tell my story, what's worked for me, and take you through and guide you through this framework. And I promise you that like this really works. Like I'm a living, breathing, like product of this. And honestly, this has come so naturally for me. A lot of my friends call me and like, they're like, oh, Leah, like, what do I do? How do I respond to this? And I'm feeling this way. And I've like naturally been able to support them and help them. And I really want to open this up and share my framework and share all the tips, all the learning, all the tools so that I can support you. I wish that I would have had somebody in my 20s and my early 30s to guide me through something like this and support me and tell me that it's all happening for my highest good and kind of just like support me in this aspect. And so that is literally my only goal here with this podcast. So if this resonates with you, please, please, please give me like a follow, give me a download, and share this with a friend that you think that this could be helpful for. And if you feel like any of this message has like resonated with you, then stay tuned. I'm going to be releasing a new episode weekly. And next week, I am focused on the decision-making room. And I'm going to walk you through my most challenging decisions, what I asked myself, and I'm going to give you tips to support you so that you can connect to your soul and you can kind of have clarity on what your next steps should be in your life. So stay tuned. I'm so excited to share my journey with you and share all these amazing resources and to share this framework. So stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for listening in. Mwah.